South African businessman Erol Mask, father of a billionaire Elon Musk, visited Serbia as well as Bosnia and Herzegovina last week. He says he wants to explore the potential of both countries as possible locations for a gravity research institute he wants to establish. Will the Balkan beat Dubai, which is also in the running for the construction of the institute? That's exactly what I'm asking Erol Mask. Mr. Musk, nice to meet you this way online. I hope that we will meet when you come again to Serbia, that we will meet live, that we will do an interview properly, as we say. So this was your first time in Serbia. What drew you to this region?
Why was I in Serbia?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes, why were you in Serbia?
I have been traveling a lot to around the world, but a lot of the time to Dubai, to the UAE, and there I actually for the first time met people from your country, and they were very, very nice, very interesting, very intelligent, smart people that I thought, and I told them what my interests were and what I was doing. And one of the things I was talking about was starting a new institute to study gravity and space-time travel, and they said, I told them I was thinking of doing it in Dubai because it's very central, and we'd already spoken to people in Dubai and buildings had been offered to us. They were very helpful, except that Dubai is quite an expensive place. That worried me a bit, but at any rate, then the friends I made said to me that you should come and see, Serbia and the Balkans where we are, and it's much better. They were very confident that it's much better.
It is better,
So,
for us,
so I said, all right, this was long ago. This was last year. And then I said, okay, I'll come. And then every couple of months or every month they say, we've arranged it, come now. And then I said, I can't make it. And then they said they arranged it for the 1st of July this month that we're in now. And I said, I'll try. And then that was cancelled. And then during the month, on about the 14th of the month, I flew to Austria. The Liechtenstein royal family invited me there for a function. And they said, the people in there where you are, they said, well, you're only 1 hour away now.
Now is the time. So you said yes.
Now you can come to us. So I said, all right. So I flew, when I was done in Austria, I flew to Belgrade. And and then I met everybody. And it was very nice, really nice. I really enjoyed it. Okay. Really intense people much like the people that I'm used to in the country that I live in for many years, South Africa. Very self-confident people, confident people.
Very, very specific people, When I read some of your interviews where you say you like free people. We feel like that we're in a free country, and I think that's the thing you like the most. So when you say you met people from Serbia in Dubai, those people are some scientists. I wouldn't want you to tell me their names, but I would like to know, because you were talking about the Institute, so I was wondering, was it about the science or something else?
Yes, the people I met from Serbia, some were from Bosnia. They are all science people, with PhDs. Well, not all, but they are very smart people. And the one man, he developed a system where from a drop of blood, you can take a person's blood, and you can take the blood and you can rebuild what that person looks like. Almost 80% accurate. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So from a drop of your blood, for example, they could make you present a
80% of
picture
me.
of what that looks almost like, well, more than 80%. That
Amazing.
looks like you're more than 80%, which is kind of super creepy. But anyway, they did it, and I was very amazed. Very, very smart people, and they're all very young. You know, they're all very young. So I know that particular man. I don't like to. He must tell me whether I can mention names. So I don't want to mention people's names unless I get permission. But
yeah, that's why I told you.
He sold his device or his discoveries or he sold it for $50 million apparently in the US, you know. Yeah, and so he has US citizenship as well now because it was of a what do you call it, security nature, you know, and so forth, you know. And so those are the kind of people that I met, very, very smart people. And then I told them, you know, I have this interest for quite a long time now, well, you know, really most of my life, I'm an engineer, but I'm basically a science type guy, that we must investigate how to use gravity for our own purposes.
And that's what the Research Institute is about gravity, right?
Well, yes. You know, at the moment, it's very simple, really. You know, we were talking about it in Dubai. For example, Dubai is just an example. In Dubai, they have the Museum of the Future. Mm-hmm. Now, at the Museum of the Future, you go in there and you see robots and all sorts of electric cars and electric this, and everything's very amazing to see this Museum of the Future. Even the building itself is like a weird construction. But one of the things they have in this building is that you get into a sort of pod. It's a pod, P-O-D.
Okay.
And it's got big windows, and then you all sit in like you're astronauts, you see, but not quite. It's very comfortable. And then they say, is everybody tied down? And then that you say yes, and then they say we're lifting off Earth now. And then as you look out of the windows of the pod, they create the vision of Dubai falling away, you know, the city falling away behind you as you rise up into the sky, and eventually you're in space in black. It's black. And then you're heading towards the International Space Station, you know, you understand? And then you dock with the International Space Station and the doors open, and then you go into the International Space Station. And inside, they've got a recreated version of the International Space Station. And you're able to look around and see what the International Space Station looks like. Mm-hmm. And then later on, you get back into the pod and you go back down and you see yourself going, you look out the windows and you see yourself going back onto the ground at Dubai. Now, that's you see this kind of thing also in films, you know, like, I don't know, Star Trek and whatever the space movies are, you know, you see this kind of thing happening where the vehicles can move up and down and go wherever they want to. And of course, that's presuming, including the Museum of the Future in Dubai, that's presuming that we now have control of gravity. Now, we have no control of gravity. We don't know anything about gravity. We know almost nothing about it.
What's the definition?
Gravity is what holds you to the earth. Sorry?
What is gravity? Yeah, what is, we know what is, scientific definition of gravity, but what is your definition of gravity?
Well, gravity, one must look at it in the simplest possible terms. Gravity is what holds us down on the earth. It forces us to be able to move back and forth, but we can't go up. We can only move back and forth. Now, we've learned with smartness, we've learned to use the air, the atmosphere, to allow planes to go up. But to do that, we need a lot of power, and we actually float on the liquid air. When we're moving at high speed, air becomes like a liquid, and we're floating through that. But in reality, we have no way of getting off the earth. We can't lift ourselves off the earth in any way. And gravity is what keeps us on the earth. In science terms, gravity is a force of acceleration. It's an acceleration force, which is a bit complicated to understand. We are kept on earth by an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second, which is strange way to put it, and it's not easy to understand that in ordinary terms. But generally speaking, it holds us on the earth, and gravity is an acceleration force. We know that.
But what is
so
that
the
institute?
object is to, sorry?
I'm just wondering, when we know a little bit about gravity, why is the Institute for you so important? It's not going to be like 2 or 3 persons in that institute researching gravity. As I heard, it would be a big institute which you want to open with a lot of scientists to find out what?
Yes. You see, no one is doing it. And the honest truth is that it should be being done, and it should be being done by essentially people in the private sector. So the way you can talk about what I'm talking about now, that is using gravity for our own purposes, which will then also lead to traveling through space, in space-time, in the 4th dimension, which means you could move from Earth to, say, Mars in a moment. You don't travel through time and space, you travel through space-time. A lot of papers were written about this 100 years ago. So many of the papers were written by the same mathematician that translated Einstein's theories of special relativity into mathematics. His name was Minkowski. And up to about 1925, Minkowski and various mathematicians of those times, Hardy and so on, wrote many papers on space-time travel, saying that we have to look at this. Of course, space-time travel includes understanding gravity. But for some reason, after about 1925, it fell by the wayside. People didn't worry about it anymore. So we moved on into the times we are in now without any serious consideration to this idea, except our movies and our TV shows and our museums of the future, like the one in Dubai, actually show us things that presume we have controlled gravity. We have control of gravity, but we don't. We have no place in the world that has a serious study going on right now about how to use gravity for our own purposes. And so my idea was that we must start an institute and get the kind of people who come up with solutions to this kind of thing are people like Tesla, Nikola Tesla. Those people are 1 in a million or 1 in a billion or whatever they are. They're very rare. And people like Einstein, people of that nature. You must remember, I'll just tell you something like this. Before 1905, that's not long ago, it would be in the time of, in your case, probably your great-grandmother or your great-grandfather, but anyway, not long ago, certainly your mother's grandfather lived at that time. And in that, before 1905, people in the world were taught at universities and schools and so forth that the sun in the sky is a big lump of coal. Do you understand? I mean, it's almost laughable when you think about it.
Yes.
We were taught at school that, and at university, that the sun is a big burning lump of coal, and that's what the sun is. And nobody knew what the sun was. They just told you it's a big lump of coal. So if you went to university and your question was in the examination, what is the sun? You wrote, it's a big lump of coal. Yes, you got 1 mark for that. You see? And then in 1905, there was this young man, he was 25 years old, a real geeky guy, and he got a second-class degree in science, physics and science. And so he couldn't get a job as a lecturer because he didn't have a first-class pass. He only had a second-class pass. So he got a job as a patent clerk at the patent office in Bern in Switzerland, and there he had lots of spare time. And he wrote a couple of pages down of his thoughts. And when he concluded that the thoughts that he had written down, he came to the conclusion that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, which was crazy at the time. E equals mc squared. It's the most famous equation in the world today. And it was Einstein. His name was Albert Einstein. And he sent his paper to Heidelberg University. He didn't even have the money to post it. He had a friend take it. And they showed it to the scientists there, to the mathematicians. Minkowski, the guy I mentioned earlier, he translated it into mathematics. And within a few, 2 or 3 months, they realized that energy and mass are the same thing. And that immediately within months, they were able to realize that the sun is energy created from mass that is being transformed from a little bit of mass each time that the hydrogen atoms become helium atoms. A little bit of mass is lost each time, and that is turned into energy. And that is the sun that we see. And so the whole world changed. And within 40 years of that, they were able to make the first atomic bomb, if you know what I mean. A bomb that, one small bomb is 20,000 tons of TNT. So this discovery is the kind of discovery, I don't like the bomb idea, of course, but nuclear energy is what I'm talking about. And so in the same way, we need to get some of these geeky people like Tesla and Einstein and stuff that are still around.
We need new people who will change the world, right?
Yes, we need to get them into an institute. We need to give them a good income. We need to feed them, and we need to give them a place which is nice to stay in. And it must be central to the world, so we can get people from Russia, people from China, people from India, people from America, people from Europe, people from South America, people from Africa, where it's neutral, you know, where there's no issues. You know what I mean? So they can all
I know,
come
but
together.
we are all in issues now. Whole world is in issues, unfortunately.
Sorry?
I say that whole world is
What's that?
issues at the moment. You know, we cannot imagine the place where all together are gonna sit and work together. But let's hope that you can make it.
Yes,
You know?
well, you can.
Why not?
You can. I thought of Dubai. I thought Dubai would be a good place. You know, again, it's not bad, and they have a very enlightened leadership. So Dubai is not a bad possibility.
But
And then
Serbia,
the people I met from
but when you
Serbia.
say Dubai, that means that you're still in thinkings about Serbia, Dubai, whether Bosnia and Herzegovina. What resources would you need in order to build?
Oh yes.
For instance,
Well, you know, when I first mentioned the idea of this, I was quite surprised to hear people get messages from people from all over offering, and London, for example, that they can raise, you know, at the time they mentioned we will raise £1 billion, you know, for such an institute. And so people are very interested everywhere to say yes, because the reason is that this would not be a university thing. This would be a private enterprise effort. And
with private
funding, enterprise,
right?
Well, yes.
Or government.
Yes, you don't want to be tied to some government or something. Okay. You want private funding. You want to work with the idea that the scientists who come there get the benefit of their efforts. They are paid properly, and if they discover something, which they will, that they get the benefit of being the person who discovered it. You know, Tesla invented AC current, alternating current. I don't know if you know that, but Tesla, your man Tesla, he invented, discovered alternating current electricity, among many other things. Mm-hmm. And he was told by Westinghouse, the company that took his studies and turned it into reality, that they would pay him 2.5% on every kilowatt hour of electricity they sell in alternating current. they reneged on that, of course. They never paid him at all. And they left this poor man stranded. But if they had paid him, Tesla would be worth trillions of dollars today. His estate, or he would have become the wealthiest man in the world by far if they'd ever paid him. But they never paid him. Yeah. And they reneged. They said they didn't make that promise. But we don't want to do that. We want a place. I would like to have a place where it's just like SpaceX, which was started on the same basis that my son started, that is based on your efforts get rewarded. You become a partner. You become a shareholder. If you make a great discovery, you don't get a little piece of paper saying thank you and a cheap watch. You get what it's worth, which could be a few $1 million or something like that. Of course, these studies that I'm looking at will have many spin-offs, and there will be many new inventions that will come out of this. And I would like to see the people and the Institute, not the Institute so much, but certainly the people who work there, benefit from it properly. And, so that's a very big difference. The other thing is, of course, that when people work like that, they are motivated. They are highly motivated. But when you are not motivated is when you are working on a grant and you're at the university and you know that anything that you find is going to belong to the university, and all you're interested in then is that your grant gets renewed. Because what's the purpose of you inventing anything? Nothing. So all the great inventions that we have in the world today, nearly all of them, I can't think of any exception, were found out by people working privately for their own interests. Nearly everything, from car tires to car engines to jet engines to everything that you can think of, was invented by people working for their own, I won't say for their own benefit, but specifically working to try and push themselves ahead and make themselves a success. And that's what we would want in such an institute. People who are motivated.
They would be competing also. It would be a competitive atmosphere where they would work.
Very competitive.
Yeah.
Very
and tell me, have you had any talks with the officials in Dubai, in Serbia, in Bosnia, or this is all? I think when in Britain government is interested, I have presume that in Serbia also, in Dubai also, in Bosnia also.
In Dubai, I've met about 7 of the sheikhs of Dubai. The leaders. It's a family-run country.
I know. Yeah.
Sort of the UAE is run. They don't have elections, and it's a very enlightened leadership, a very good enlightened leadership. So it's not what you would call. It's run by a private family, but they are very enlightened. So I've met about 7 of them, and they're all very, very interested in what I'm saying. They offered me buildings immediately and said, yes, we will do whatever we can to help you. And at the same time, I've had these people say to me, please come and look at Serbia and the surrounding area, because we are also we're very interested. We're also very central and all that sort of thing. So I said, okay, that's why I'm there. And then I was met by a former Minister of Defense in Serbia. Mm-hmm. He met us at the airport, and we spent time with him. And he's very interested in becoming involved. And so that's where I stand at the moment. Everybody's very interested in it.
And you're thinking. So, but yeah, of course you are. But when you think about it, what would be the most important thing which will make your decision, to say, I go to this country?
Well,
talk about Dubai. Who wouldn't go to Dubai? They give you everything. Just come, please. We'll give you everything. Yeah. But is it all about money?
I've had the same sort of response from Serbia and Bosnia, because I went to Serbia and Bosnia. They said, please come, we'll help you in any way we can. Mm-hmm. Well, and then, of course, what I noticed in the area was the cost of living is much better. Mm-hmm. In other words, money goes a little further. And then also, it's a very pretty place to work, to be. It's not just, if you take Dubai, for example, it is after all, Arab. Although Dubai itself is 9 million people from the world and 1 million ethnic, or what do you call it, Emiratis. But it is, after all, a Muslim, specifically Muslim, and it's very expensive and so forth. And when I saw where you are, I thought it's much less expensive here, and the people are very intense, and all very. They could understand me, I could understand them. So the area is Serbia is certainly a very interesting possibility for this. And the way to start is the way we started SpaceX. You get premises, you start fishing. I was one of the first 9 people who worked at SpaceX with my son.
That was how many years ago was that? Was it?
That was 20 years ago, 23 years ago, and we had in the first, took us about 4 or 5 months to just have 9 people, and we had they were very geeky people, and but we worked all day, every day, weekends, everything. And today it's thousands and thousands of people. SpaceX just completed the 500th launch of the Falcon 9. And today SpaceX is the only viable launch facility in the world, truly viable, launch facility in the world. And of course, SpaceX has also launched Starlink. So, if SpaceX ever did an IPO, it would be worth $1 trillion or more, But anyway, it started with just a few people in a very rundown building. And people were recruited very slowly. Or we tried as fast as we could, but slowly people were brought together who knew something about it. And we said, we're going to try and build a rocket. And, and that's how we did it.
It was a rocket, yeah. First idea.
So this is the same.
Yes.
This is the same thing.
So this is the thing. Let's as I understand, let's research about gravity. We can travel time in our language, or we
Space-time.
Right? Space-time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's unbelievable when you see it looks impossible at this time.
Yes. Well, you have to remember that, as I said just now, little more than 100 years ago, they thought the sun was a piece of coal, and if you spoke to people even very recently and said, I could talk to you like I'm talking to you now on this Wi-Fi system, they would have said, well, that's amazing, I can't believe it. So they wouldn't believe you in a way. And I can remember not long ago, about 30 years ago, there was no such thing as Wi-Fi. We never had any Wi-Fi. The phone rang and you dialed the phone. That was just the other day. And the movies show us the future. The movies show us, the museum of the future show us what we need to do. And so we've got to set about trying to do it. I'm amazed that the big governments around the world haven't thrown a lot of money at this, because it's obviously at the same time you can't.
Why didn't they do it? Why didn't NASA do it? Why your son had to do it?
NASA's a government body. Why didn't NASA launch rockets? NASA can't launch rockets. They don't know how to do it. They're a government body. They're government employees. They're civil servants. Do you understand? NASA
I understand, but how is it possible?
NASA hasn't done anything. NASA employs private companies to do the things that they do. So NASA should, I suppose, have employed private companies to look at gravity. I don't know why they haven't done it, but recently NASA decided not to go with SpaceX on a device, on a rocket launch to the moon. And they had Boeing and United Launch Alliance do it. And it was a complete failure. The Artemis rocket last year, it was a complete failure. Didn't work at all. So, you could go back more than 100 years and you could say, why didn't the governments of those days investigate electricity? Why did it have to be some little man from Serbia, Nikola Tesla, to do it and show them what to do?
But do you have an explanation? Do you have an answer?
Yes, and people like Edison, who worked with Tesla, and in those days, and they said to Edison, how many times have you tried to make a globe, an electric light globe? And he said, well, I've tried now 1,000 times. And they said to him, to Edison, well, it looks like you can't do it. Mm. He said, well, that's not true. He said, I know 1,000 ways that it doesn't work. I know 1,000 ways that don't work. You know, and then when he got to about 1,002 or 1,003, it worked. Mm. And today we have electric globes. Yeah. You see?
Yeah, today we think that we have everything today. You know, that's the problem.
That was a man everybody thought was nuts. They thought he was a nutcase, Edison. And yet he gave us the electric globe. So it wasn't the government. It was somebody who was just determined to do it on his own. And in the same way, we need to start a study of, in my opinion, on gravity and space-time travel. Since I've been doing this, various physicists, I must have a few hundred letters from different scientists, you could say, and they've asked me to include in such a study, private study of fusion, which is the way the sun works, you know. Okay. It's not fission, it's fusion. And it's a different form of nuclear energy, which is very clean. And they say we should be also having a section that focuses with a bunch of geeks just on fusion. And then another group came to me and said, earlier this year, and said, could you please include in this institute a study of longevity?
Okay.
And I heard the word longevity before, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant. But longevity is to do with the length of a human life, mm-hmm. You know. And they explained to me, these people, that around the world now there are many new clinics called longevity clinics, which can map the DNA of people and tell you what diseases you're prone to and all that sort of stuff. And they estimate that the human lifespan, it should be about 120 years. You know, and then they explained to me that before the First World War, the average life, that's before 1914, the average life of a European woman was 39 years. 39 years. So the average woman in Europe, where you are, was nearly 39 or maybe a little over 39, but the average was 39 years that you would live.
And now
it's 87. Now it's 87, which is more than double, which is in itself pretty weird. And they invited me to America, the longevity people. So I spent a month there with them, with the man who was the first scientist, doctor, who mapped the human genome, Craig Fenter. So I was with him at his longevity clinic, and they've asked me to be one of their sort of guinea pigs, or I don't know what you call it, to see if they can get me to live.
To go to 120, huh?
Anyway, so I'm 80.
And you said, I presume you said yes, right?
I'm 80 years old.
No, but did you say yes? I'm gonna live for 40 more years. Of course, I will.
Yes. Of course. And so they want me. So I've joined them. And okay. they tell me the things that I have to do. All I'm trying to say is that.
But what do you have? What do you have to do? Now I'm curious. What do you have to do?
Oh, look, there's so much investment in longevity since I've learned about it that I couldn't even begin to start. Okay. About a third of all human activity on Earth is aimed at health and longevity. That's what I would say. Let me repeat that. About a third of all human activity on Earth is to do with nutrition, health, and longevity. And I was amazed when they told me that if I include a study of longevity in this clinic, that the amount of money that's available for that study is much more easily obtained than for a study on gravity, if you understand what I mean.
Of course I do, because, you know, why do I care about gravity when I'm going to die?
Yeah, people are much more interested in longevity than gravity. But anyway, so I said, all right, if we get that far, we will have a section, a department, we'll divide the institute into 4. We'll study gravity, space-time travel, fusion, and longevity. And we will do this privately with private people with the potential for them to gain very much from their efforts.
And do you have some time frames? Like, you know, I want this institute to be opened in 2027. I don't know.
Well, you know, I had the idea of this institute for a long time. I mentioned it last year on a trip. In 2024, I mentioned it on a trip to one of the sheikhs in, I was with one of the sheikhs of the UAE, and we were with a complete big hall of all the representatives from the UAE and everything. And we were up on a stage, and the sheikh said to me, what is the Musk family going to do now? Because you don't seem to have anything. What else are you planning to do? You know, because you're already doing, you know, all the things, Neuralink and you know, SpaceX and Tesla and all that sort of stuff. And we also own many restaurants, and we have farms and all that sort of stuff. So I said, well, yes, I think we should start a study of gravity and space-time travel. And everybody, ooh, what are you saying? You know, and next day the newspapers were coming to me. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And so I started telling everybody, and then it sort of grew and grew and grew. And it was only about 3 weeks after that my son Elon, who was in Los Angeles at the time, contacted me and said, because SpaceX factories are in Los Angeles, he said to me, what's this about a clinic?
He didn't know anything about it.
What's this about a science institute? Elon called me up and said, what's this? Am I involved? Is he involved? I said, no, it's just me. He said, oh, all right.
Okay, I'm enough of everything, you know. I'm in a lot of things, yeah.
So it took 3 weeks to get across the world to him on that side. And so I've had many inquiries on this, but it's a really very important thing to do. It's not a joke. It's really serious. And
that's why I'm asking you, do you have some time frame?
Yes, well, you know, I have business strategists that are looking at all the possibilities. At the moment, we're not 100%, up to recently, before going to where you are, your area, I was focused on Dubai. We actually saw a building. We actually went to a building. We actually went right through the building that was offered to us. It was perfect. In Dubai industrial area, it had 3 levels. It had a canteen. It had accommodation on the upper level.
But why are you thinking? Then I don't understand anything. If
no, we were shown this right away, and they said you could use this. They said you could use this building. That was last year, and but since then we've been trying to decide. You know, it's not as though I mean, I have many things to do. I don't have just this to do, and then. Your people said, before you do anything, please come to see where we are. And that's why I wound up where you are, to see what it looks like there. And I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I would just go to Serbia and be a nice visit or something. But I was very surprised by how intense the people are. They're very like yourself, you know. We're not talking about slow people, you know. They're very quick.
No, we're not slow people.
I found myself doing more in a day when I was there than I would do in a week anywhere else, you know.
Yeah,
so
but
I also had,
when you come to Tesla's country, let's say like that, to country where Tesla was from.
Yes.
That this is the thing which is very important for you. I know that you follow the work of Novak Djokovic also. And yeah, we have a lot of amazing people who were born in Serbia and who live in Serbia. But yes, and that's the thing which can maybe change your mind about Dubai. Okay, so I guess that you will think a bit, and then you would come again to Serbia, and that you will search for another options for your institute.
Yes. Well, all that is in the process of happening already. You know, plans to go back, and everything is in the process of happening. Just want to mention, you know, people say to me when I was in Austria, for example, why don't you think of this institute in a very established sort of country like Austria? The trouble is, you don't want to be involved with the European Union and all its regulations. And to my mind, you don't want to be in a country which is heavily socialized, that's so socialized that people don't want to work anymore and just want to sit in coffee shops all day. You don't want that kind of place. You want a place that is very much like the US. You know, the US people work. People often ask me why I don't join my children who all live in the United States.
But why
and
don't
I answer them like this. I must just tell you this. America is workaholics. Workaholics. They get up at 6 o'clock to miss the early traffic. They come back at 10 o'clock at night. They work weekends. This is a workaholic paradise, the United States. And so the United States is probably where such an institute would probably be the best in terms of, but then you only have American people. You're struggling to get people from Russia. Some of the greatest inventions, discoveries have come from Indians in Gujarat, India, who've discovered things from little villages. I mean, the idea of black holes in space was discovered by an Indian boy living in a village in India. I mean, work that one out. He was immediately swept off to Cambridge, where they made him a professor. But so a person wants to be able to freely bring people from China, India, Russia, America, Europe.
Free country.
Yes, you need a free country where they don't play games with you. Russia is a great place. I was in Moscow recently. It's absolutely incredible place. Moscow is probably the best city I've ever seen, and most beautiful city I've ever seen. And yet it's Russia. So how do you get people to go there? It's not going to work. You have to have a place where we can draw everybody to one place, and they feel free and they can work in a private enterprise capacity.
Yeah, and when I was reading a bit of about you, media also reported that you discussed the potential investment in this our region with your son Elon, who you mentioned a few times. And you tried to convince him that it is a good idea. Is it about this institute? Because you said a few minutes ago that he was like, am I involved? You said, no, you're not. So is it about this?
No. I mean,
or is it about something else?
No. He just asked me, he said, am I involved? Is he involved? I said, no, it's me. I'm doing this. Yeah. And I don't believe that rockets are although we have the biggest rocket building facility, I don't, for Earth orbit, it's fine. Rockets are great. But for traveling for interplanetary travel, sitting in a pod for months on end in a little pod is not a great idea for people. You only have to take the example of people who travel across the ocean in a small boat. 4 or 5 people might get in a boat and go across the ocean, which I've done many times. And the confined space, the danger, sometimes makes those people go crazy with worry, and you know, they lose their wits, and so to put people through space in a little pod, traveling for months through space, you know, and then land on a planet somewhere, not a good. I don't think so. I think we must work on space-time travel. Work on space-time travel.
Yeah.
And one day people will look back and say, gee, remember when they didn't know what space-time travel was?
Yeah, I hope it will be like that. But you know, when we all the time think, how is it possible? You know, when you have this TikTok, internet, you always think about how is this possible that we're not on the moon as a tourists at the moment. We were talking about going to Mars on 2025. This is the year. That didn't happen, and we will not go to Mars soon as
well, you know, you raise a very important thing, you know, to land on the moon. I can't get onto that in detail right now, but I'll just tell you quickly. To land on the moon is extremely difficult. It is very, 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 very difficult to land anything on the moon because there is no atmosphere. And in order to be in orbit around the moon, if you're only a few feet off the moon, a few meters off the moon, you would have to travel at about 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers per hour. So you'd be traveling to be able to remain in orbit just a few meters above the moon. You'd have to travel at up to 8,000 kilometers an hour. And if you try to slow down, you'd need you need to be able to go all the way around the moon. If you're a person in such a vehicle traveling at 8,000 kilometers an hour, take you a lot of time to slow down so that you don't feel the G's, you know, the G's of slowing down.
But and we did it.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
Really?
No, I'm not so sure about that. And that's why the last 10 efforts to land anything on the moon resulted in, for the last 10 years, in the last 10 efforts in the last 10 years, every attempt to land something on the moon resulted in a debris field about 2 kilometers long, because trying to land is very, very difficult, because you have to stop to land.
But so is it?
And before you stop,
whether we went on
crash
the moon?
into the surface.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Is it questionable that we people went on the moon, to the moon, or you say it didn't happen?
Well, it's becoming more and more clear that there's a bit of information missing. Elon's company, SpaceX, have realized that to send a vessel to land on the moon, they need to send fuel into space first with fuel carriers to be able to fuel up something big enough to get to the moon, and then to have enough fuel to be able to slow down when it's on the moon. Because in order to slow down from, assuming you're in orbit above the moon, let's say you're 80 kilometers above the moon in orbit, you're probably traveling at about 15,000 kilometers an hour, which is about 7 times the speed of a rifle bullet. And you now have to slow down. And to do that, you would need a lot of energy, a lot of fuel to be able to slow down without, you know, and when you do slow down, you need a lot of fuel to stop you from crashing into the surface. You know, but you need tons and tons of fuel.
Can you imagine, for instance, that we do everything the same as they did it when they landed, when they say that they landed? So Elon do everything the same as they did it. Did someone?
You mean in 69?
Yeah, in 69. Well,
there's a lot of questions asked there. I'm afraid there's a lot of questions asked there. The orbiter is shown in the 69 videos. It's shown landing almost vertically down onto the moon when it leaves the pod, the parent pod. And the parent pod would have been traveling at about 7 times the speed of a rifle bullet. And then the Eagle simply went down to the surface, but it would still be traveling at 7 times the speed of a rifle bullet, and it has to slow down. And to do that, it has to use a lot of energy to slow down. And that's probably one of the biggest questions that remain unanswered about landing on the moon. But there are other things that make the landing on the moon in '69 somewhat a little questionable. I don't want to say I don't believe in it or something, but
you're just asking.
There are a lot of things that are very questionable about that.
You're just asking, because yeah, okay, no problem. And I guess that you and your son share that thoughts about.
Well, yes, Elon they're busy trying to figure it out themselves. As I say now, recently they published an article pointing out that in order to reach the moon, they need to put fuel into space first, so that they have fuel available in orbit, that they can send the moon vehicle up and then refuel, because they need fueling again once they're up in orbit to be able to get to the moon. And then they need fuel at the moon to slow down. It takes as much fuel to slow down as it does to speed up. It's the same energy involved. So if the energy needed to speed up to 25,000 kilometers per hour is the same energy is needed to slow down from 25,000 kilometers an hour to zero.
Yeah, and with the Institute of Gravity Institute, we can go in a second, as I understand.
Well, yes. Once we make some progress and we look and we do what is being shown in the movies, we would simply go straight up. There would be no rockets anymore. We would simply go straight up, and we would only need fuel to gain speed for the vehicle, assuming we operated simply with control of gravity. But then you move to the second thing, and that is moving in space-time. That means you move in the fourth dimension. Light, the light that I showed you earlier, this light is traveling in the fourth dimension. So it's moving from the globe to me in the fourth dimension. Light travels at a speed at which there's no time. There's no time. There's no space. So we need to learn how that works so that we can do that. That's the only way we can reach the stars. And once we are able to move in space-time, we can move to the nearby stars. And I've got very little doubt that in the universe, and certainly even in our galaxy, there must be spacefaring civilizations that have already achieved this. And yes, I don't think there can be any doubt of that. It was something like,
where are they? Why didn't they come to see us?
Well, maybe they have. Maybe the reason we are here.
Hi?
Well, there are many scientists, many people who will tell you that we are probably, the human race is very likely product of some people. If you read the Bible, just read the Bible. The ordinary Hebrew, New and Old and New Testament, it tells you everything. It tells you everything. The spacemen came and they were big and they were giants and they created us, and then it's all in Genesis. It's all in Genesis. Just read Genesis.
Yeah.
And they had they liked what they created so much, and so forth. The human race and so on. It's all in the Bible. Never mind anywhere else.
Yeah.
And the space is huge. So we would, if you take the Earth as it was, say, a couple of hundred years ago, we all lived in a country maybe like Europe. Most people, we didn't realize there were people living in the tip of South America. We didn't know that. And why would we? Why would we bother? As time went by, went there and we found them. But in the same way, in the universe, in space, in the galaxy, we may just be a small outpost somewhere, not particularly part of the main.
You want us to be the one who will find, the other.
But to prove what I'm saying, NASA, using the various rocket companies, has sent things into space with information about Earth and pictures of Earth and all that sort of stuff, in the hope that someone somewhere will find it. Other people in other parts of the universe will find it. So it's a generally strongly held belief that there are other civilizations.
Yes, that the other civilization exists. Hypothetically, if Serbia were to offer you citizenship, how would you respond?
Citizenship?
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that. I really haven't given it much thought. I would like to have free access. I'd like to have a long-term visa that I can come and go, you know.
Okay. But...
And anybody who comes there to work has to be free to come and go. That's very important.
When I'm free to come and go, you know, that's not the...
No, I mean really free to come and go. You know, you can't, it has to be, you have to make it workable. I mean, those sort of things are not what I'm thinking about. I've got other people thinking about that. But I do know that you need to have the freedom that Dubai gives you. So like Dubai gives you a lot of, they don't mess around. You go to Dubai, you say, I want a 3 months multiple entry visa. They say, here it is. And they don't mess you around. For me to get a visa recently to go to Austria, took me like 2 weeks to get a visa. I have a visa, but the visa they give you is for 3 months. So every time you want to go, you got to get a new visa.
Listen, if someone understands you, Serbian people understand you, because we needed visas for European countries until 13 years ago. So we know what is it.
It's terrible.
Now we still need visa for USA. We need visa for UK. So I know. I know. How do you feel like?
And yes, for me to get a visa to go, I was invited in this May month that just passed. I was invited to speak at Oxford University, to deliver a speech at Oxford University.
But you need
So I went and asked for a visa, and they charged me $1,100 for a visa, and took 3 weeks to give me a visa, and charged me $1,100 for me to go and deliver a speech at Oxford that they invited me to. No. The UK is the last place I ever want to do anything. That's finished.
No more, huh? No more.
No more.
Okay, I understand. No. And I hope to see you soon in Serbia. I hope to.
Okay.
Because, you know, we could talk about things all the people in the world are interested in now for hours.
Okay.
I know that you don't have time. You know.
Make time.
Yeah, we will make time. Tell me, for the end of this conversation, who are you? How would you describe?
Who am I?
How would you describe as
my parents were heavily involved in the Second World War. My father was in the war for 6 years. He was a wreck. My mother was a refugee from England. We grew up terribly poor, but it was all right. It was fine in Johannesburg as refugees after the war, also in England for a while. And we had rations and ration food and all that. So I grew up quite poor. I never even had a bed, never mind a bedroom, until I was about 10 years of age. And then
you were in your family?
Sorry? Two brothers.
Two brothers.
Yeah. And my brother is a medical specialist, so we've done quite well. And his two sons, my brother's two sons, are the highest university results, graduates in South African history. That's my nephews. And then my children, we are much. I noticed when I was in Serbia and Bosnia that the people are similar to the white South Africans, you know. They're very intense, very switched on, you know. As opposed to when I was in England and Austria, people seem to be in a sort of relaxed mode, too much relaxed, I don't know. But they seem to be much more switched on. So we are like switched on people. I sent my children to America. They've changed, everything. SpaceX is now valued at about $500 billion. My daughter there runs her own television system called Passionflix, which is the same as Netflix, but it's called Passionflix. They have romantic movies, so it's almost identical to Netflix. And my other son, he owns, I know it sounds crazy, but he owns 3,600 restaurants.
3,600?
3,600.
Okay. I thought
it's a bit crazy.
You were wrong. It is crazy. How is it possible?
But anyway, I must just add that about 3,500 are takeouts. What do you call it? Like KFC type, but it's Mexican fast food, Mexican whole food.
Okay.
Mexican whole food. It's good food. In other words, proper food, but it's Mexican salads and Mexican whole food. So. But he's got about 108 big restaurants that are very high level restaurants, And he goes around to them with a jet. So he flies to each one with a jet because it's the only way he can get around. So we are a bit different.
Yeah, I understand. And
I've owned about 40 airplanes. So, mostly twin engine airplanes. So, I'm an engineer. I think we've just being fortunate to, have a little bit more gray matter. I don't know, maybe, or we're a little bit more crazy than other people. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, that's how media describes you, like a bit more crazier than normal people. Yeah. So that's why I ask you who you are, because I'm just curious, how would you like to be remembered? As an engineer, as you said, as a father, as a visionary?
I'd like to be remembered as a good father, As a father, I like that. But, obviously I've already been recognized as a good engineer so many times that I don't need to be recognized afterwards or something. But no, I'd like to be remembered that I was a decent sort of guy. That's the main thing.
Yeah. In 40 years, we will talk about it, because of this longevity. You will, when you open your research center in Serbia, you will create, the system of long living, as I understood.
Yes. Yes, I'm interested. I'm not sure what you said, but I would like to. Yes, obviously. You mean longevity? I would be very interested in helping in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. Nice having this wonderful conversation with you, and hope to see you soon when you come to Serbia.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.